Captain Ji-hoon Park stood on the bridge of the Soul's Pride, watching the stars through the main screen. His ship was the largest in their small fleet, but even it looked tiny compared to what waited ahead. 12 human ships against something much bigger and scarier. Captain, we're getting readings on the long-range scanners, said Lieutenant Yuna Kim from her station. Her voice was calm, but Ji-hoon could hear the worry underneath. It's the Corvin fleet, sir. They're huge. Ji-hoon nodded and walked closer to the tactical display. The screen showed dozens of red dots, each one representing a massive alien warship. The Corvin hegemony had been conquering worlds for hundreds of years. Their ships were legends of destruction, and their crews had never lost a major battle. How many ships? Ji-hoon asked. Over 200, Captain, replied Yuna. All of them are bigger than our largest vessel. The bridge fell quiet. Everyone knew they were heading into danger, but seeing the numbers made it real. They were not just outgunned, they were completely overwhelmed. Any sane person would turn around and run, but they could not run. Behind them were the colony ships, filled with families looking for new homes among the stars. These people had left Earth with dreams of building something better. They trusted the small human fleet to keep them safe, sir. Incoming transmission from the Corvin flagship, Yuna announced. Put it on screen, Ji-hoon ordered. The main display changed to show the interior of an alien bridge. The creature that appeared was tall and covered in dark scales. Its eyes glowed red and its mouth was full of sharp teeth. This was Admiral Vextar, commander of the Corvin fleet. I am Admiral Vextar of the Dominion's Fist, the alien spoke in perfect human language. His voice was deep and threatening. You have entered Corvin space without permission. Your tiny fleet will surrender immediately. Ji-hoon stepped forward. This is Captain Park of the human fleet. We request safe passage through this system. We have no interest in fighting. We only want to reach the outer colonies. The alien admiral laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Humans, another weak species trying to spread across the galaxy. Look at your pathetic ships. 12 against my armada? You might as well throw rocks at a mountain. Behind the admiral, other Corvin officers were pointing at their screens and laughing too. They seemed to think this was all a big joke. To them, humans were just another primitive race to crush. We have conquered 17 species in the last 50 years. Vextar continued. Each one thought they were special. Each one begged for mercy in the end. You will do the same. We're just trying to pass through, Ji-hoon said again. We don't want any trouble. But trouble has found you anyway, the admiral replied. His red eyes seemed to glow brighter. Your ships are made of metal and powered by ancient fusion technology. Our weapons are pure energy, and our shields can stop anything you might fire at us. You cannot win. Ji-hoon looked around his bridge. His crew was young, but they were good people. Engineer Woo-jin Lee was checking weapon systems. Commander Minji Choi was coordinating with the other ships. They all knew what was coming, but none of them looked afraid. They looked determined. Admiral, Ji-hoon said carefully, we have families on those colony ships. Children who just want to find a new home. Can't we work something out? Vextar's laugh became even crueler. Your families will make excellent workers for the hegemony. The strong ones will serve in our mines. The weak ones... He did not finish the sentence, but his meaning was clear. I see, Ji-hoon said quietly. So there's no chance for peaceful passage? None, the admiral replied. Surrender now, and some of your people might live to see tomorrow. Fight us, and we will destroy every last human ship. Your choice is simple, slavery or death. The transmission ended, leaving the human bridge in silence. Everyone was looking at their captain, waiting for orders. They all knew what those orders would be, but they needed to hear them anyway. Ji-hoon walked back to his command chair and sat down. He had served in the human space navy for 20 years. He had fought pirates and raiders, but never anything like this. The Corvins were right about one thing. This was not a fair fight, but fairness had nothing to do with it. Yuna, open a channel to all ships in our fleet, he ordered. Channel open. Sir? Ji-hoon's voice carried to every human vessel. All ships, this is Captain Park, you heard what they said. They want our families as slaves and they want us dead. I can't order any of you to fight. This is a choice each crew must make for themselves. He paused, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, his own daughter was on one of the colony ships, sleeping safely because she trusted him to protect her. But I'll tell you what I choose, he continued. I choose to fight. Not because we can win, but because some things are worth dying for. Our freedom is worth dying for. Our families are worth dying for. The right to live as free humans is worth dying for. The responses came back quickly. Every ship captain, one by one, confirmed they would fight. No one ran. No one surrendered. They were scared, but they were also angry. The Corvins had made a mistake by threatening their families. All ships, battle stations, Jihoon ordered. Prepare for combat. Warning lights began flashing throughout the Soul's Pride. The crew moved quickly to their positions, checking weapons and shields. In the engine room, Woo Jin Lee was making sure their fusion drives were running perfectly. On the other ships, similar preparations were happening. The Corvin fleet began moving toward them, a wall of massive warships that blotted out the stars. They came slowly, confidently, like predators approaching helpless prey. Admiral Vextar probably thought this would be over in minutes. He was about to learn something important about humans. When they have nothing left to lose, they become very dangerous indeed. Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of the Dominion's Fist, watching the human ships through his tactical display. They looked like toys compared to his massive fleet. Each Corvin dreadnought was 5 times larger than the biggest human vessel. His weapons could tear through a moon, and his shields had never been broken. "Sir, should we deploy the full fleet?" asked his tactical officer, a younger Corvin with bright green scales. Vextar waved a clawed hand dismissively. "Against 12 primitive ships? That would be embarrassing. Send 20 vessels. No, make it 15. I don't want the other races thinking we needed our entire armada to crush a handful of humans." The bridge crew laughed at this. They had seen the human ships on their scanners. Metal hulls, chemical rockets, and basic fusion reactors. It was like watching children play with wooden swords while holding energy weapons. "Their technology is at least 300 years behind ours," reported the science officer. "They're using kinetic weapons, actual physical projectiles. Their ships are powered by fusion, not antimatter. Their shields are electromagnetic barriers, not quantum fields." "Fascinating," Vextar said with amusement. "They're still throwing rocks while we command the power of stars. This will be educational for the fleet, a demonstration of Corvin superiority." Meanwhile, aboard the human destroyer Busan's Edge, Commander Minji Choi was watching the Corvin fleet through her own sensors. She could see 15 massive ships breaking away from the main group, moving toward the humans in a loose formation. "They're not even taking us seriously," she told her crew. "Look at their formation. They're barely maintaining defensive positions." Her weapons officer, a young man named Dong-Yun, shook his head. "Their shields aren't even at full power, Commander. They think this is going to be a joke." Minji smiled grimly. "Let them think that. The bigger they are, the harder they fall." On the Soul's Pride, Captain Jihoon was coordinating with his fleet. Each ship had a specific role to play. The destroyers would strike fast and hard. The cruisers would provide covering fire. The flagship would coordinate everything and hit the biggest target. "Woojin, how are our weapons looking?" Jihoon asked over the internal communication system. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Woojin Lee was making final adjustments to their railgun systems. These weren't the fancy energy weapons the Corvins used. They were simple magnetic accelerators that fired chunks of metal at incredible speeds. "All railguns are ready, Captain," Woojin reported. "We've got tungsten rounds loaded and ready. Each projectile weighs 50 kilograms and will be traveling at 15% of light speed when it hits. And our targeting systems? That's the beauty of it, sir. Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons. They use electromagnetic fields to deflect plasma bolts and laser beams. But our rounds are solid metal. Those shields might as well be made of paper." Jihoon nodded. The humans had learned about Corvin technology from studying the wreckage of ships from other defeated races. While everyone else tried to match the aliens' advanced energy weapons, humans had gone in a different direction. Sometimes the old ways were the best ways. Back on the Corvin flagship, the tactical display showed the 2 groups of ships getting closer. The 15 Corvin vessels were moving in a standard intimidation formation, designed to show off their massive size and firepower. "Sir, we're receiving detailed scans of the human vessels," the science officer reported. "Their weapons are even more primitive than we thought. They're using electromagnetic rails to fire solid projectiles." The bridge erupted in laughter. Vextar had to wipe tears from his red eyes. "Railguns? They're fighting us with railguns? What's next? Are they going to throw spears at us? Should we raise shields to full power?" asked the tactical officer. "Don't bother," Vextar replied. "Save power for the real battles ahead. These humans can't possibly hurt us with such ancient weapons. On the human cruiser Incheon's Hammer, Captain Hyunwoo Nam was preparing his crew for battle. His ship was smaller than the others, but it carried the most powerful railgun in the fleet. One shot from his main cannon could punch through a small asteroid. "Remember," he told his gunner, "we get one chance at this. They don't know what we're capable of, so they're not ready. After we fire the first shot, they'll raise their shields and get serious." "Understood, Captain." Target locked on their lead ship. The gunner was a woman named Hanul Song, one of the best marksmen in the human fleet. She had trained for years on the firing ranges of Earth and Mars. Her fingers moved over the controls with practiced precision. "Their shields are only at 30% power," she reported. "I can see weak points in their armor where the hull plates join together." "Perfect," Hyunwoo said. "Wait for Captain Park's signal." The Corvin ships continued their approach, moving slowly and confidently. Their weapons were not even powered up yet. They expected the humans to surrender as soon as they saw the size difference. Admiral Vextar was already thinking about what he would do after this easy victory. Perhaps he would make the human children watch as their parents were put in chains. It would be a good lesson about the price of defying the hegemony. "Sir, the humans are powering up their weapons," reported the tactical officer. "Let them," Vextar said with amusement. "It will make no difference. Their primitive railguns cannot penetrate our shields, even at reduced power." He was wrong about that, but he would not realize his mistake for another 30 seconds. On the Soul's Pride, Captain Ji-hoon watched as the range closed between the two fleets. The Corvins were so confident that they had not even bothered to scan for targeting systems. They had no idea that human computers were calculating the exact trajectory needed for each shot. "All ships, this is Captain Park," he said into his communication system. "Remember what we're fighting for. Remember who we're protecting. Today we show the galaxy that humans do not bow to anyone." The responses came back from every ship. "Ready to fire." Ji-hoon looked at the tactical display one more time. The Corvin ships were beautiful in their own way, but they represented everything he hated about the galaxy. Bullies who took what they wanted and crushed anyone who opposed them. "All ships," he said quietly, "fire at will." The first human railgun fired from the Incheon's Hammer, sending a 50-kilogram tungsten slug through space at 15% of light speed. The projectile was invisible to the naked eye, just a tiny speck of metal moving faster than anything the Corvins had ever faced. Hanul Song watched her targeting display as the round flew toward the lead Corvin ship. The aliens had no idea what was coming. Their shields were designed to deflect energy weapons, not solid objects moving at near light speed. The tungsten round hit the Corvin destroyer's shield generator. The electromagnetic field that was supposed to protect the ship simply parted around the solid projectile like water around a stone. The round continued through the ship's hull, tearing a hole the size of a car straight through 3 decks. On the Corvin bridge, alarms began screaming. The tactical officer stared at his display in confusion. "Sir, we've been hit. Hull breach on decks 4, 5, and 6. Admiral Vextar looked up from his reports, annoyed. "Hit? By what?" "Their weapons shouldn't be able to penetrate our shields." "I don't know, sir. The projectile went right through our defenses like they weren't there." Before Vextar could respond, 11 more railgun rounds slammed into the Corvin formation. Each shot had been carefully aimed at weak points in the alien ships. The humans had studied Corvin technology for months, learning where to hit for maximum damage. Captain Hyunwoo Nam's shot took out the main weapons array on a Corvin cruiser. The alien ship began spinning slowly, leaking atmosphere and debris. Commander Minji Choi's destroyer put 3 rounds into another ship's engine section, causing a massive explosion that split the vessel in half. "What's happening?" Vextar shouted. "How are they penetrating our shields?" His science officer was frantically working at his console. "Sir, their weapons are kinetic, not energy-based. Our shields are designed to deflect charged particles and electromagnetic radiation. Solid objects at high velocity pass right through." On the Soul's Pride, Captain Ji-hoon watched as 4 Corvin ships were disabled in the first salvo. It was better than he had hoped for. The aliens were completely unprepared for this type of attack. "Reload and fire again," he ordered. "Target their weapons and engines. We need to disable as many as possible before they figure out how to defend themselves." The human ships fired again. This time the Corvins were ready, or at least they thought they were. The alien ships began evasive maneuvers trying to avoid the incoming rounds, but the humans had planned for this too. Woo Jin Lee had programmed their targeting computers with prediction algorithms developed during Earth's wars. These systems could calculate where a moving target would be several seconds in the future. The Corvin ships were fast, but their movements followed predictable patterns. More tungsten rounds found their targets. A Corvin battleship lost its main bridge when a railgun round punched through its command section. Another ship's reactor went critical and exploded in a ball of white-hot plasma. Admiral Vextar could not believe what he was seeing. Half of his assault force was destroyed or disabled, and the humans had barely taken any damage in return. His advanced weapons were useless at this range, and their energy shields provided no protection against solid projectiles. "All ships, maximum shields," he ordered. "Divert all power to defensive systems." But it was too late. The humans had achieved complete surprise, and they were not wasting the opportunity. Every railgun in the human fleet was firing as fast as it could reload. The Corvin ships, designed for long-range energy combat, were helpless against this close-range barrage of kinetic rounds. On the Busan's edge, Commander Minji watched as her gunners put round after round into a Corvin heavy cruiser. The alien ship was 3 times larger than her destroyer, but size meant nothing when you could not defend yourself. "Their armor is stronger than expected," reported her weapons officer, "but we're getting through. Their hull is cracking along the stress points." "Keep firing," Minji ordered. "Don't give them time to adapt." The Corvin heavy cruiser tried to return fire, but its main weapons were designed for space combat at long range. At close quarters, they could not track fast enough to hit the smaller human ships. The destroyer danced around the massive alien vessel, firing constantly. Finally, the Corvin ship's hull gave way. Atmosphere vented into space as the vessel broke apart, its crew lost to the vacuum. Minji felt no satisfaction at the destruction. This was not about revenge, it was about survival. Admiral Vextar realized he had made a terrible mistake. These humans were not the primitive weaklings he had expected. They had studied Corvin tactics and technology, then developed weapons specifically designed to counter them. "Send a message to the main fleet," he ordered. "Tell them we need immediate reinforcements. These humans are more dangerous than anticipated." The communication officer's hands shook as he tried to send the message. "Sir, the humans are jamming our communications. We cannot contact the main fleet." Vextar's blood ran cold. The humans had planned this perfectly. They had lured a small force away from the main fleet, then cut off their communications. Now they were systematically destroying his ships while the rest of his armada had no idea what was happening. On the human flagship, Lieutenant Yuna Kim was coordinating the electronic warfare attack. Human computers were flooding the Corvin communication channels with random signals, making it impossible for them to call for help. "How long can we maintain the jamming?" Captain Jihoon asked. "Maybe 10 more minutes," Yuna replied. "After that, their main fleet will notice the communication blackout and come looking." Jihoon nodded. They had known this would be a short fight. The goal was not to defeat the entire Corvin armada. That was impossible. The goal was to hurt them badly enough to make them think twice about attacking human colonies. "All ships, concentrate fire on their remaining functional vessels," he ordered. "We need to finish this quickly." The human fleet focused their attacks on the few Corvin ships that were still fighting. These aliens were brave and determined, but they were also doomed. Their weapons could not hit the fast-moving human ships, and their shields provided no protection against railgun rounds. One by one, the remaining Corvin vessels were destroyed or disabled. Some tried to flee, but the human ships were faster and more maneuverable. Others fought to the end, firing their energy weapons uselessly into space. When the battle was over, 15 Corvin ships lay in ruins. Some were completely destroyed. Others were drifting hulks leaking atmosphere and debris. The human fleet had taken damage too, but all 12 ships were still functional. Admiral Vextar found himself aboard one of the few Corvin vessels still capable of movement. His flagship was gone, destroyed by a direct hit to the bridge from a human railgun. Most of his crew was dead or missing. "Sir," his surviving tactical officer said quietly. "What are your orders?" Vextar stared at the wreckage of his force. In 30 minutes, these primitive humans had accomplished what no enemy had done in centuries. They had defeated a Corvin fleet in open combat. "Send a withdrawal signal to any surviving ships," he said finally. "We retreat to the main fleet." "Sir, what do we tell Admiral Command about what happened here?" Vextar thought about that for a long moment. How could he explain that humans with primitive technology had crushed his advanced warships? How could he admit that he had underestimated them so badly? "Tell them," he said slowly. that we have encountered an enemy unlike any we have faced before. Tell them that these humans fight like demons, and their weapons are more dangerous than they appear. Tell them that we need to reconsider our approach to this species." As the surviving Corvin ships limped away from the battlefield, they left behind a message that would soon spread throughout their empire. The humans were not just another primitive race to be conquered. They were something new and dangerous, and they would not surrender without a fight. The silence after the battle did not last long. Admiral Vextar's surviving ships had barely cleared the immediate area when new contacts appeared on the human sensors. The main Corvin fleet was coming, and this time, they were taking no chances. "Captain, I'm reading over 150 ships approaching," Lieutenant Yuna Kim reported from her station. Her voice was steady, but Captain Jihoon could see the worry in her eyes. "They're coming fast and in full battle formation." Jihoon studied the tactical display. The entire Corvin armada was bearing down on them, weapons charged and shields at maximum power. There would be no element of surprise this time. The aliens had learned from their mistake. "Sir, incoming transmission from the Corvin flagship," Yuna announced. "Let me hear it," Jihoon said. Admiral Vextar's scarred face appeared on the screen. His red eyes burned with anger and humiliation. "Human Captain, you have made a grave error. You destroyed 15 of my ships through trickery and deception. Now you face the full might of the Corvin hegemony." "Admiral," Jihoon replied calmly, "you attacked us first. We were just defending ourselves." "Defending?" Vextar's laugh was harsh and bitter. "You call that defense? You specifically targeted our weaknesses. You studied our technology and built weapons to counter it. This was planned." Jihoon did not deny it. There was no point in lying now. "Yes, we studied you. We learned from the species you conquered before us. We prepared for this day because we knew it would come." "Then you know you cannot win," Vextar said. 12 ships against 150. Your clever weapons will not save you now. We have raised our shields to maximum power and changed our formations. Your railguns will not penetrate our defenses." The transmission ended and the human bridge fell silent. Everyone knew the Admiral was right. The first battle had been won through surprise and superior tactics, but now the Corvins were ready for them. The odds were impossible. "Captain," said Tactical Officer Minho Yoon, "the Corvin fleet is dividing into 3 groups. They're trying to surround us." Jihoon nodded. It was a classic pincer movement designed to trap the human fleet between multiple lines of fire. The Corvins were no longer underestimating their enemy. "Set course for the asteroid belt," Jihoon ordered. "Maximum speed." "Sir?" Yuna looked confused. "The asteroid belt? That's away from the colony ships." "Exactly," Jihoon replied. "We can't protect the colonies by fighting here. We need to draw the Corvin fleet away from them. Make the aliens chase us instead." The human ships turned and accelerated toward the nearby asteroid field. It was a dangerous place, filled with floating rocks and debris from an ancient planetary collision. Most space battles avoided such areas because the asteroids made navigation difficult and weapons targeting unreliable. But humans had grown up on a crowded planet with dangerous oceans and hostile environments. They were used to fighting in difficult conditions. The Corvin fleet followed, their massive ships struggling to maintain formation as they navigated between the larger asteroids. Their weapons were designed for open space combat, not the close-quarters fighting that the asteroid belt would force upon them. "All ships, prepare for guerrilla tactics," Jihoon broadcast to his fleet. "Use the asteroids for cover, hit and run. Make them work for every shot." The first exchange of fire came when the Corvin vanguard entered the asteroid field. Their energy weapons lit up space with brilliant flashes of plasma and laser light. But most of their shots hit asteroids instead of human ships. The human vessels darted between the floating rocks like fish swimming through a coral reef. They knew exactly where they were going, having spent weeks mapping this asteroid field in preparation for exactly this kind of fight. Commander Minji Choi's destroyer Busan's Edge led the harassment attacks. Her ship would pop out from behind an asteroid, fire a quick burst from its railguns, then disappear behind another rock before the Corvins could return fire. "It's working," reported her weapons officer. "We just disabled another Corvin cruiser. Their shields are useless when we can hit them from unexpected angles. But the humans were taking losses too. The Daigu's Vengeance, commanded by Captain Hyunwoo Nam, took a direct hit from a Corvin plasma cannon. The ship's hull was breached in 3 places, and half the crew was injured. "Captain," reported his engineering officer, "we're losing atmosphere fast. Hull integrity is down to 40%. We can't take another hit like that." Hyunwoo looked at his damage reports. His ship was dying, but it was not dead yet. "How long until the reactor reaches critical levels?" "About 10 minutes, sir." Hyunwoo made a decision that would have horrified most military commanders, but which made perfect sense to a human. "Set course for the largest Corvin battleship. Maximum speed." "Sir, that's a suicide run." "I know," Hyunwoo said quietly. "Send the crew to escape pods. Minimum crew only for the final approach." Most of his crew evacuated, but 12 brave souls stayed behind to help guide the ship on its final mission. They were all volunteers, all humans who understood that sometimes sacrifice was necessary for victory. The Daigu's Vengeance emerged from behind a large asteroid at full speed, heading straight for the Corvin flagship. The alien ship was 5 times larger and armed with enough weapons to destroy a small moon, but it could not evade the determined human vessel. "They're on a collision course," shouted the Corvin tactical officer. "They're going to ram us." Admiral Vextar watched in horror as the human ship approached. This was madness. No sane species would sacrifice an entire ship just to damage an enemy vessel. But the humans were doing exactly that. The Daigu's Vengeance struck the Corvin flagship at nearly 20% of light speed. The impact created an explosion that could be seen throughout the asteroid field. Both ships were destroyed instantly, taking with them over 3,000 Corvin crew members and 12 human heroes. But the sacrifice inspired the rest of the human fleet. They had seen what one ship could accomplish through sheer determination. If that was what it took to protect their families, then that was what they would do. Dr. Yoonji Kang, the fleet scientist, aboard the Soul's Pride, was monitoring the battle from the science station. She had been working on a desperate plan, something that could even the odds against the massive Corvin fleet. "Captain," she called to Jihoon, "I have an idea. It's dangerous, but it might work." "What do you have in mind, Doctor?" "Our fusion reactors," Yoonji explained. "If we overload them at the right moment, we can turn each ship into a massive bomb, much more powerful than conventional weapons." Jihoon understood immediately. She was talking about turning their ships into weapons of mass destruction. It would mean the death of everyone aboard, but it could also cripple the Corvin fleet. "How many ships would we need to sacrifice?" he asked. 3 or 4, positioned correctly, could take out most of their remaining vessels, Yoonji replied. "But Captain, there's something else. We've been broadcasting this entire battle on all human frequencies. Every ship, every colony, every person in human space has been watching." Jihoon's eyes widened. The battle was not just about this one fleet. It was a message to all of humanity. They were showing their species that the aliens could be beaten, that resistance was possible. "Sir?" Yuna interrupted. "I'm detecting new signals on long-range sensors, multiple contacts approaching from human space." The tactical display updated to show dozens of new ships approaching the battle zone. They were not military vessels. They were cargo ships, passenger liners, mining vessels, and colony transports, civilian ships that had been hastily armed with whatever weapons their crews could find. "Captain, this is the cargo hauler New Seoul," came a transmission. "Admiral Taehyun Jang commanding the civilian relief fleet. We heard your call for help. We're here to fight." Jihoon felt tears in his eyes. Across human space, ordinary people had heard the battle and decided to help. They were coming to fight an alien armada with converted freighters and improvised weapons. "All human vessels," Jihoon broadcast. "This is Captain Park. Welcome to the fight. Today we show the galaxy that humanity will never surrender." The Corvin admiral watched in disbelief as hundreds of human ships emerged from hyperspace. This was impossible. No civilized species would send civilian vessels into a military engagement. But the humans were doing exactly that, and suddenly Admiral Vextar realized he was no longer fighting a small human fleet. He was fighting the entire human race. The space around the asteroid belt filled with human ships of every size and type. Cargo haulers that normally carried grain from Earth's farms now bristled with improvised railguns. Passenger liners designed for luxury travel had been hastily converted into missile platforms. Mining ships built to break apart asteroids now carried weapons that could crack open alien hulls. Admiral Taehyun Jang stood on the bridge of the converted cargo ship New Seoul, watching his makeshift fleet organize itself for battle. He was not a military man, just a merchant captain who had spent his life moving goods between the colonies. But when the call came that humanity was under attack, he had not hesitated. "Admiral, we have 347 ships in the relief fleet," reported his communications officer, a young woman who had volunteered from a nearby colony. "Most are armed with mining equipment or improvised weapons." "What about training?" Taehyun asked. "Sir, most of these crews have never been in a real space battle. They're farmers, miners, traders, and colonists. But they all know how to fly their ships, and they all know what we're fighting for." Taehyun nodded. They might not be professional soldiers, but they were humans defending their families. That would have to be enough. On the Corvin flagship, Admiral Vextar stared at his tactical display in growing horror. The human reinforcements kept coming, ship after ship emerging from hyperspace. His sensors showed civilian vessels with no military training, but they were moving with surprising coordination. "Sir, we're outnumbered," his tactical officer reported. "They have us 4-1 and more ships are still arriving." "They're civilians," Vextar snarled. "Cargo ships and pleasure craft. Our weapons will tear through them like paper." But even as he said it, the Admiral knew something was wrong. These humans were not acting like the defeated species he was used to fighting. They were organized, determined, and completely without fear. Captain Ji-hoon's voice echoed across the human fleet. "All ships, this is Captain Park aboard the Soul's Pride. We're about to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten human families. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every species that dreams of freedom." The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The humans did not use traditional military tactics. Instead, they fought like a swarm of angry insects, surrounding individual Corvin ships and attacking from all directions at once. The converted mining ship Pusan's Pride led a group of 20 cargo vessels against a Corvin heavy cruiser. The alien ship was 10 times more powerful than any individual human vessel, but it could not defend itself against attacks from every angle. "Target their engine sections," ordered Captain Jinwoo Park from the mining ship's bridge. "We don't need to destroy them, just disable them." His crew had spent years breaking apart asteroids with precision blasting. Now they used those same skills to surgically remove the alien ship's ability to fight. Focused beam weapons cut through the Corvin vessel's propulsion systems, leaving it drifting helplessly in space. Similar scenes played out throughout the battle zone. Human ships that had never fired a shot in anger worked together like they had trained for years. Freighter captains who normally worried about delivery schedules now coordinated complex attack patterns against alien warships. The Corvins tried to respond with their traditional tactics, but their weapons were designed for fighting other advanced civilizations with energy shields and high-tech defenses. Against hundreds of simple metal ships moving in unpredictable patterns, their targeting systems could not keep up. "Sir, we've lost 30% of our fleet," reported the Corvin tactical officer. "These humans are fighting like nothing we've encountered before. They sacrifice their ships without hesitation." Admiral Vextar watched as a human passenger liner rammed one of his destroyers, both ships exploding in a ball of plasma. The alien crew aboard the destroyer was trained for decades in space combat, but they were all dead. The human crew had probably been teachers and shopkeepers before this battle, but they had died fighting for something they believed in. "They're insane," Vextar whispered. "No species fights like this. They value individual lives more than victory." "Sir, that's just it," the tactical officer replied. "They don't value individual lives more than victory. They value the survival of their species more than anything else. Every one of them is willing to die to protect their families." This was the lesson the Corvins were learning too late. They had conquered 17 other species by showing overwhelming force and expecting surrender. But humans had spent their entire history fighting each other, learning lessons about warfare that no other species had needed to learn. The human ships used tactics that would have been impossible for a traditional military force. Civilian vessels volunteered for suicide missions without being ordered. Cargo ship captains made split-second decisions that saved dozens of other vessels. The entire fleet operated like a single organism, each part supporting every other part. Dr. Yunji Kang had been coordinating the scientific vessels in the human fleet. Research ships that normally studied planets and stars were now gathering intelligence on Corvin technology and sharing it with the entire fleet in real time. Captain Jihoon, she reported over the communication system. We've identified a critical weakness in their command structure. The Corvin ships are heavily dependent on their flagship for coordination. If we can take out their command vessel, the rest of their fleet will be disorganized. Understood, Doctor. All ships concentrate fire on the Corvin flagship. This ends now. The remaining human vessels turned toward Admiral Vextar's massive battleship. It was the largest and most powerful ship in the Corvin fleet, protected by shields that could withstand the explosion of a small star. But it was also outnumbered 50-1. The attack began with the military vessels. The surviving ships from Captain Jihoon's original fleet used their railguns to punch holes in the flagship's outer defenses. Then the civilian ships moved in, using their improvised weapons to exploit the weaknesses. Admiral Vextar realized that his ship was doomed. The humans were not just attacking his vessel, they were systematically dismantling it piece by piece. Their coordination was perfect, their determination absolute. "Sir, we should surrender," his tactical officer suggested. "Maybe they'll show mercy." Vextar laughed bitterly. "Mercy? We came here to enslave their families. We called them primitive and weak. Do you think they'll show us mercy?" But even as he spoke, something remarkable happened. Captain Jihoon's voice came over the Corvin communication systems. "Corvin vessels, this is Captain Park. Your flagship is disabled. Your fleet is defeated. Any ship that withdraws immediately will be allowed to leave safely. We don't want to kill you. We just want you to leave us alone." Vextar could not believe what he was hearing. The humans had won a complete victory, but they were offering mercy to their enemies. No species in Corvin history had ever done such a thing. "This is Admiral Vextar," he broadcast to his remaining ships. "All vessels withdraw immediately. Repeat, all ships withdraw from human space." The surviving Corvin vessels began pulling back from the battle zone. They had lost more than half their fleet, but the humans were keeping their word. No one fired on the retreating ships. As the alien fleet limped away from the battlefield, Admiral Vextar composed a message that would change the galaxy forever. It went out on all Corvin frequencies, reaching every ship and every world in their empire. "To all Corvin forces, this is Admiral Vextar. I have engaged the human fleet in the Centauri system and suffered total defeat. The humans are not the primitive species we believe them to be. They fight with a coordination and determination I have never encountered. Their weapons may appear primitive, but they are devastatingly effective against our technology." He paused, thinking about everything he had witnessed. More importantly, these humans fight for something we have forgotten how to fight for. They fight for their families, their freedom, and their right to exist. Every human ship, military or civilian, was willing to die to protect their species. They turned cargo haulers into warships and passenger liners into weapons of war. They fought us with mining equipment and improvised tactics. And they won. The message continued across Corvin space, reaching every commander and every world. "I am issuing the following order to all Corvin forces. Human space is to be avoided at all costs. Do not engage human vessels. Do not threaten human colonies. Do not underestimate their resolve. The humans have shown us that technology alone does not determine the outcome of war. Spirit, determination, and unity can overcome any advantage we might possess." Vexatar's final words would be remembered throughout the galaxy. "Today I learned that there are forces in the universe more powerful than our weapons. The human spirit is one of them. Any species that threatens their families does so at their own peril." The message spread beyond Corvin space. Soon every major power in the galaxy had heard about the small human fleet that had defeated a Corvin armada. The species that had seemed so weak and primitive had shown that they possessed something rare and dangerous: the willingness to fight for their freedom no matter the cost. Captain Jihoon stood on the bridge of the Soul's Pride, looking out at the debris field where hundreds of ships from both sides had